So we wanted to know a bit better about French in Singapore, because we noticed that nothing was written before, and the only thing we can find in history books was something like Frenchman. So we were quite curious to know who were these Frenchmen, and so we did some investigations in archives in Singapore, in Paris, in London, to know a bit better about this French community. And we noticed too that we can find some books about American community, Eurasian, Japanese, and nothing about the French. And we wanted to know a bit more about the history of Singapore too. So we wanted to write something with the French angle, how the French could participate to the development of Singapore.
And how about you, Mr. Messi?
She gave all the answer. Thank you.
Yes.
No, but yeah. We'll just add that actually the motivation was because we are teachers working at the French school, so we wanted to give some insight to help our students also to understand the history of the country where they live. For some of them, where they grew up, for example.
And so, from the overall project, that you have finished, writing this wonderful illustration, what lessons have you learned that you can the reader take away, even for yourself?
I would say that even though there is about 10,000 kilometers distance between Singapore and France, but our two histories actually are quite similar in some ways. For example, the war, the Second World War, when in France you have the regime of Vichy, then the colony, Indochina, was helping the Japanese. And then for the Japanese it was easier to come to Singapore and to invade Singapore. You see? So, and even in the 19th century, when we talk about the canal, the Suez Canal, there's also a connection, because we all know that Singapore became big city, a port city, very important with when the Suez Canal was inaugurated. So this is one thing very, very important, that the two histories were connected actually.
And for yourself, Madame?
It was interesting to see that even Singapore is not a French colony at all. Quite a lot of people, and more, decide to stay here and to build some business and to live here in Singapore and try to do some nice business, and not only business but cultural things too, architectural, in a lot of different sectors. The French are present, and it's not at all a French colony. And, the population is growing quite a lot this last years.
So, from this experience, has learning more about the French history that were immigrants here in Singapore, has that ever give you more insight, and at the same time has that changed your perspective towards how cultures are able to adapt one another?
Yeah, definitely, and we can also see that Singapore is really a land of opportunities for everyone. You see, for all the communities. Of course, we all know about the Chinese communities, the Malays, and the Indians. But also, you see, for minorities like the French or the Armenians, for example. You see, so that's quite.
Madame. So, who will be your favorite character in history? In Singapore. I mean, is there a personality, Frenchman or woman, that you admire most?
Yes, there's a few of them. Maybe I can talk because I am a woman, and very few women, French women, are in this book, because all time it was not very often that the ladies are coming into overseas. So maybe one sister, Sœur Mathilde, and she has a very strong character, and she was at the head of the CSIAG, so she began the education here, and she had an orphanage, and she was quite a very strong character. She did a lot of things. She's a bit forgotten, but it was the beginning of a big school and education in Singapore.
I can't agree more. And how about yourself? Is there a male character?
A male character, a lot. Obviously, I will mention, for example, Father Burrell, who is also a missionary who came in Singapore in the 1840s. He built, for example, the cathedral, the Good Shepherd Cathedral. He is the one who asked Mother Mathilde to come to Singapore, and he is behind the CHIJ, he is behind the SGI also, for example. If we don't talk about the missionaries, the religious people, we can mention the businessmen, the business communities. So you have, for example, Chloé, Alfred Chloé, who is behind IAM brand, everybody knows in Singapore. So at first it was, and it's still French actually, because now it's the Denis brothers, Frères Denis in French, who are a company based in Indochina, and they came to Singapore. You see, or we can also talk about some activists, political activists. There's Joseph Ducrot, for example, in the 30s, who came to Singapore and was arrested in Singapore. He was in charge of implementing communism, not in Singapore. He was in charge to India, but unfortunately he was arrested. But you have all the stories in the book.